Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Jeffrey Purdue, and I'm an advanced sommelier and certified by the Court of Master Sommeliers, which is a formal way of saying that I've tasted a lot of wine. At the core of the Court of Master Sommeliers, the tasting process is the deductive tasting method. This is a practice that allows you to deduce what a wine is, as well as where a wine comes from. Today, I'm going to demonstrate the deductive tasting method on the wine in my glass. We are going to go in order from the sight, the nose, and the palate, through the conclusion. First, we are going to begin with the sight. Begin the sight portion by holding the glass by the stem, swirling the wine, and then tilting it about 45 degrees against the white background. Assess the clarity, color, hue, brightness, and concentration, as well as how opaque or how well you can see through the wine. This wine is a clear red wine, bright, of medium concentration, with a deep ruby core fading to a light pink rim of moderate opacity. Now, bring the glass upright, paying close attention as you do so to how the wine clings to the glass. This is the viscosity, sometimes called the legs or the tears, and is the final component of the sight portion of tasting. If the tears are thin and fast, then viscosity is low. If the tears are thick and slow moving, then viscosity is high. This wine has a medium viscosity. After the sight portion of tasting is complete, it is now time to smell the wine. For the nose or smell portion of tasting, bring the glass to your face and take a few sniffs at various places and distances from the glass. The first things to determine are whether the wine is clean or faulted and how intense are the aromas. Common wine faults can smell like mothballs, wet dog, or vinegar. This wine is clean with a high intensity of aromas. The next thing to look for are fruit aromas, their character, and how youthful they are. Fruit character can range from tart to ripe and jammy and include baked, stewed, or dried. This wine smells like ripe cherry and raspberry, as well as a little kind of overripe, jammy black cherry as well. After assessing fruit, now move on to the non-fruit characteristics. These can include categories, but are not limited to, herbal, floral, and vegetable. This wine smells like violets, black tea, and a little like cherry cola. Next, you want to see whether the wine is earthy. This can include things like living earth, like mushrooms and soil, as well as non-living or inorganic earth, like rocks and minerals. This wine has a little mushroomy quality, but overall is not very earthy. The last thing to look for on the nose are indicators that the wine has been aged in oak barrels. These can include aromas like baking spices, vanilla, caramel, toasted coconut, and among others. This wine definitely smells like vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg, so it probably has been aged in oak barrels. Now that you're finished with the nose, it's time to move on to the taste or the palate. To begin, go ahead and get some wine in your mouth, swirl it around for a couple moments, and swallow. Delicious. There are two features of the palate we want to examine, the structure and the flavors. For structure, examine the sweetness, tannins, acid, alcohol, and body. For sweetness, just gauge how much sugar is there. Is it dry or is it sweet? Tannins are elements that can taste bitter and leave your mouth feeling dry, especially in high amounts. If you've ever had a cup of tea that's been steeped too long, that dryness, that astringency, those are tannins at play. For acidity, think of a spectrum where high acidity is like sucking on a lemon and low acidity is like olive oil or avocado. As alcohol is concerned, gauge it by how deep you can feel the burn of the alcohol as you swallow. And then for body, you want to think about when the wine was in your mouth, was it more like skim milk, 2%, or more like whole milk? This wine is dry, with moderate tannins, moderately high acidity, moderate alcohol, and a moderate body. Now for the flavors, you want to compare and contrast what you've tasted to what you smelled. Have the characteristics you smelled in the wine changed at all now on the palate? Some wines grow much more tart and earthy, and this is a really good indicator that the wine was grown in an old world European country. If the wine grows more fruity and ripe and the non-fruit diminishes, that's a really good indicator that the wine was grown in the New World, namely the Americas or Australia and New Zealand. This wine is very fruit forward on the palate, and what little earthiness was there on the nose has diminished completely. The fruit is now quite jammy, overripe, and baked. Now that you've assessed the sight, smell, and taste of the wine, it's time to make a conclusion. For the conclusion, take a moment to think about all the characteristics of the wine. Which ones are most prominent, and how do they change from the nose to the palate? You want to consider what grapes typically fit the profile of what you smelled and tasted, what countries typically produce wine from those grapes, and the overall youthfulness of the components. At this point, you can eliminate a large majority of the wine styles of the world and start to narrow in on a final conclusion. This wine is from the New World, likely from the United States. Due to its color, flavor profile, and intensity, this is a young wine, most likely made from Pinot Noir, maybe Merlot. My final conclusion is that this is a 2019 Pinot Noir from California, United States. Let's take a look. This is a 2020 Pinot Noir from California, United States. To conclude this demonstration, using the deductive tasting method can help you determine what the wine in your glass is, as well as where it comes from. The process involves going through the sight, nose, and palate of the wine, then making conclusions based on your deductions. You do not have to be a professional sommelier or wine expert to employ this method, and with a little bit of practice can actually become quite good at it. Now, I think it's time to enjoy the rest of the wine in our glass. Thank you very much for joining me today. Cheers.